Good evening and welcome, all you octogenarians, septuagenarians, and sexagenarians. You're here with us tonight for Black Star, Still Rising. I'm your host, Stephen Silver, Black Butterfly Carter. You probably all know those names I go by in different situations, but welcome to have you here. We're sponsored, of course, by the Black Star Project. And we got to put our tribute out always to Philip Jackson, the founder, the late founder of the Black Star Project, and also to Gloria Smith, the executive director of the Black Star Project. Welcome today. I'm excited because a little later on, a few minutes more, back by popular demand.
Oh, here you go.
Back by popular demand. It's Dr. Mike. This is the person that will tell you how to, what's it called? Head to toe, and then some more. Then some more. We can say it like that, right?
Yes, sir.
But we got a few announcements to make first. Want to also always give shout-outs to our studio producers, Imani Payne and Rocio Santos. Thank you so much for you two doing everything you've done.
Yes.
And I'm going to have a surprise for you. I'll give you a little hint. We're going to be continued next season, in the spring season, but on Tuesdays.
All right.
From 5:30 to 6. Keep that in mind. Folks, get ready to take some notes. We want to keep you informed of what's happening. Next Tuesday is coming Tuesday, April 2nd. That's not April Fool's Day. April 2nd, Tuesday, 5:30 to 6 o'clock. We'll be on board. Black Star Still Rising, still hosted by me. We're going to have some great folks. Yeah. And tonight, to end this season, I couldn't think of a better way to end this season with Dr. Mike. A couple more shouts out to Cy Lewis at the HERT program is East Meadows. And I think she's going to be on next season. She's going to be on, I forgot what day, I think it's Wednesday. Look out for her. Call the station here to find out when Cy is going to be on. So she's going to be sharing some valuable information too. Got a shout out to Lisa Dawn Taylor, the founder of the South Shore Current magazine, the West of the Rhine magazine, and the West Side magazine.
Yes.
Shout out to her. And I think I made all the right people I had to. Oh, can I not say thank you to Darius Hillman, who has allowed these programs to go on and allowed us to do and talk about intergenerational things that relate now today for our seniors that I talked about. But it's going to be more intergenerational things. And Gloria Smith said, we've got some dynamic people that she wants to have aboard that can talk to a broader range than just us seniors. Last shout out to my people at the City Seniors facility at Creighton and 79th Street. And that's in the senior citizens facility there. Crocs, all our supporters out there, thank you. You stay aboard, keep your pencil and paper handy, because we got some information. And I'm going to let you share something with us first of all, Dr. Mike.
Yes, sir.
You had some information to pass on. Give it to our audience.
Yes. Good evening. It's my pleasure again to be on CAN TV with Stephen Carter, the Black Butterfly. It's my pleasure to end the season.
You forgot Silver.
Well, we don't call you Silver on there. We just call you...
Whatever you want to call me.
Well, I call you the Black Butterfly.
All right, call me the Black Butterfly. I go by that.
But we can call him Silver because he got a little silver up there.
A lot of silver. Go ahead.
That's all right. Well, thanks, man. I'm glad it's my opportunity again to be back on the show. This evening, from the previous show, we talked about dementia and particularly Alzheimer's and how that's affecting our community. But today we're going to move away from the patient and we're going to talk about the caregiver.
You're getting into sensitive things now.
Well,
because with the patient, you have to have somebody to take care of you. And I know you're going to get into depth about this.
Yes.
You told me a little bit. Go ahead. Tell them. Yeah.
Before we get started, let me I know some people don't have time to watch the whole show. Let me give you some telephone numbers for caregivers that would be helpful. The Alzheimer's Association, the first number is 1-800.
Write it down.
272.
72.
3900.
3900. 3900. Is there another digit missing? Get all the digits, yeah.
That's it. 1-800. Let me say it again. 1-800.
Okay.
272.
3900.
That's for the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay, go ahead.
Second number we have is the Elder Care locator. That's a agency that if you get to a point where the person needs more care than you can provide and your family, then they can move into an assisted living facility, a memory facility, depending on what their needs are.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You said elder care. I want to remind you folks out there who are listening to this, this is for elders, not elderly. This is for people who are older, but not old. Keep in mind, you're the people we're talking to and their caregivers and
Yes.
the people who are in relationship with these people. So you are the elders and you are older, not
Right.
old.
Not
Okay.
old.
Go ahead, Dr. Mike.
Just sprout it up a little bit. You're not gone yet. You're still here, but you need a little care sometime. The last, it's not a number, but it's just the AARP is a very good resource for caregivers, and I've reached out to them because, like I said, I have two of my family members who have Alzheimer's, and so I'm dealing with this situation in real time.
Real time.
In real time.
That's why you're so real and authentic. And the information that he's given you, he's had to go out and find this information. Some of it was ready available. Others you had to research. We're sharing this with you now, and he's got a number to call to for further information. Or got more information on?
Yeah, I got one more number. The Department of Aging.
Okay.
Say
In
again,
Chicago.
the Department in Chicago. Yeah, that number is 1-800-252-8966.
Repeat that for me, Dr.
Again,
Mike,
the
please.
Department of Aging. That number is 1-800-252-8966.
1-800-252-8966.
Those are all resources that I have researched and had to call and find out information in order to take care of my loved ones. So like I said, I'm dealing with this in real time. This is not something, our discussion is not something
It's not theory.
It's not theory. It's not out of a book. It's actually hands-on, day to day. So with that, let's see. Anything else? Any other numbers? No, those are the numbers I wanted to share first.
Let's do a
you can.
kind of a quick review.
Mm-hmm.
Quick review will be things like the signs of dementia. So some of our viewers may not have had a chance to see some of the previous Give
Okay.
some of the quick signs of dementia. And
Well-
things that you noticed either personally or whatever.
Yeah. Well, let me just define dementia. Dementia is when you don't have the ability to remember, recall, and/or do the functions of daily living. They call them activities of daily living, which would be cooking, cleaning, bathing, remembering your appointments and stuff like that.
Very
So
basic.
those are the first things that you probably notice with your loved ones is they, especially forget what day and what date it is.
Okay, very good.
I just talked to one of my loved ones that I call every day. I call her at 9 to remind her to take her medication. Then I call her at 6.
And I heard part of the conversation. I could tell that she was dependent and he was most sympathetic. And we're going to talk about that too. Do you want to talk about that with the empathy and stuff that you shared with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, let me just say first of all, as a caregiver, like I said, dealing with this in real time with two of my loved ones, we didn't sign up to be caregivers.
Oh, no, you didn't have to sign a piece of paper?
Nobody came to the house.
Where did it come from?
It came from our love and recognition that something was wrong with our loved ones.
Okay.
And so when you thrust into that position, it's very emotional. And you feel that you're helpless. Because once again, with the dementia, it's the loss of short-term memory. Specifically, Alzheimer's is the number one type of dementia that we're talking about. Most people have, 67% of the population has Alzheimer's disease. Right now, currently,
Wait a minute, say it again, please. What percent of the population?
67% of people who have dementia, let me step back 1 second. Dementia is the header.
Yes.
Okay, and then there's types of dementia.
Okay, go ahead.
Because sometimes people say, "Oh, you got dementia." Well, that's like saying if I say you got cancer, I'm gonna ask you what type.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And so
go ahead.
if a person says, "Well, I have dementia," you have to define what type of dementia they have. And so Alzheimer's is 67% of the people with dementia
With dementia, okay.
have Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Okay, that's good. That clarifies it. Thank you very much, Dr. Mike.
And that's speaks to the fact that you have loss of your short-term memory. And that happens in the part of your brain called the hippocampus. That's responsible for your short-term memory. So that is something that's very, very, very scary for the person as well as the caregiver, because that person whose short-term memory is not working, their long-term memory is fine.
It takes over.
It takes over. And
some inopportune times, right? You were telling me.
Yeah, well, like I said, something can trigger that because the short-term memory is not working. The long-term memory, I would imagine, because I'm not a neurologist, I would imagine from my interaction with my loved ones that something can trigger them and then they begin to talk about things in the past.
Let me just make this disclaimer. Dr. Mike is not a medical doctor, but he is a pharmacist, a PhD in pharmacy, and has been at this how many years now?
30 years.
30-something years, came out of Xavier University, one of the greatest black institutions in the world.
Of course, shout out to Xavier.
Shout out to Xavier and the HBCUs. But go ahead. He is doing research, doing the kind of research for us, but he's taking it personally because he's in that situation.
Yes.
That this is very important, but he knows how to do it as a medical professional.
Yes.
He has gone through school and went through processes that enable him to do research and bring his research, and will be referring our viewing audience to you about different things. So, Dr. Mike, please continue.
Yeah. So they're when they can't remember because of the loss of short-term memory, the long-term memory kicks in, and they can begin to talk to you about things that are not relevant to the conversation that you're having with them, but you can't interrupt them and or say, what are you talking about? Because that's all they can rely on is their long-term memory. The short-term memory is like a short circuit. It's almost like a Christmas tree. You know, all the lights on, and you got that one area where the lights go out.
Not blinking anymore. Okay.
It's not blinking.
Just that area, but the other areas.
But as the rest of the lights are on the tree.
Okay.
So that's what happens to the short-term memory. It shuts down because it's got sludge and different things that we're not going to cover that today because we're talking about the caregiver and what the responsibility of the caregiver.
So what happens when the potential caregiver senses that? What happens? What are some of the emotions that a caregiver goes through that you say you've showed me or talked to me about how you deal with it and how you empathize with it? Go, please.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to see your loved one become a shell of themselves because you're looking at them and they're there, but they can't really communicate real-time situations. They don't know dates, what day it is, what time it is. Like one of my loved ones, they came over for Christmas, and she didn't know it was Christmas.
Didn't know it was Christmas. Had been there at Christmas just a year before.
She's 80-something years old, so she's lived through a lot of Christmases.
Okay.
So you would think that she would know that it was Christmas.
Be looking forward to, like most of us are, until that day, this Christmas.
Yep. She did not know it was Christmas. So as a role of the caregiver, you have to have empathy.
Okay.
Compassion.
Okay.
And most of all, patience.
That's a big one. The patience.
You have to have patience because
okay.
Your mind is trying to rationalize what you're seeing, and what you're seeing doesn't make sense.
It's not making any sense. Because one day or whenever it hits you, the person was this way, and the next day...
They were doing fine. My other loved one was able to FaceTime the grandkids, do all that other stuff, and then the next week, none of that.
Went out the window.
They had the remote control, the phone in their hand trying to change the television.
What's their response when either they sense it or you're engaging with them? What's their response when you start to explain what may be happening to them?
Well, first thing is denial.
They deny it.
Because nobody wants to think of themselves as being just a shell of themselves. One of my loved ones said that as we had a conversation and I brought that to her attention, she was like, well, that's taking away my identity.
That's deep.
It's like, at 80 years old, you're not working anymore. Your kids are grown.
Yeah.
the only place you can be the boss is at your house.
And then you wind up taking the car keys from them, easing them out the pocket, things like that.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely that, and not no ability to go on the computer. My loved one, she could go on the computer, order stuff from Amazon, from the grandkids, all that stuff, and now she can't even get into the computer.
Then know the
to pay her
passwords
bills.
or where to look for the passwords and things like that.
Yeah, it took her 4 or 5 days just to remember her password. So it's
So
very
that takes patience, though. You're trying to pull that out of her so you can take care of the normal business day of a person.
you have to take over for them, and they're not ready to let that go because that's all they have.
Kicking and screaming, right? Almost.
Basically,
Yeah,
and especially in the case if you're dealing with a child and the parent, because your parents gonna always think of you
That's my
as
child.
as their child,
That's my baby, yeah.
right? So
Okay.
how all of a sudden you gonna take my debit card and in the mail, and I can't read the mail? You can look at the mail. They're looking at the mail, but they're not processing that.
Okay.
Because that's all short term.
Right.
They know they have bills to pay, but they can't pay them because they don't have. It's a pattern. It's a sequence.
You use a very critical term, very profound term. And I'll give you the first word. You said, meet loved ones.
Oh yeah, you definitely, because you want them to come back to who they were, and they can't.
Okay.
So you have to meet them where they are.
Meet them. That struck me. Meet them where they are.
Yes, that's one of the first things after we talk about the compassion, empathy,
Patience.
and patience. Once you realize that they can't do the things that they could do previously, because this happens it can happen quickly, or it can happen over a long period of time. That loss could be gradually, or they can have some kind of trauma. Say if they fall, that accelerates that loss of memory.
Okay.
And so that happened with one of my loved ones. The other one, it's gradual. It's a gradual progression. Stage 1 of the condition.
Now, we talked about another interesting facet of this, of the caregiver. Of one, being able to identify the right person in the family who's a caregiver, and then the different relationships. And I'll hit there's children, there's spouse, there's friends. Talk about that engagement between those areas, especially the spouse.
Yeah. I consider those what they call different dynamics that people have in relationships, whether you have dementia or not. There's, if I'm an only child, so thank goodness I don't have to deal with a spouse. I mean, a sibling.
Right.
But most people have siblings. So if it's a sibling with a parent, as we talked about, that's like an 80-20. That person is not getting ready to let go of control of the things that they've been doing on their own for 80 years. So that's like Teddy Pendergrass, 60-40,
40.
Sometimes it's not equal.
Right.
But when you're dealing with a husband and a wife and a spouse and spouse dynamic, it's pretty much a 50-50.
Right.
Or whoever's been in control
Okay.
of the relationship or the business aspect of that, hopefully that's not the person with some type of dementia. Because that other person's not used to doing that. But they will listen to them because it's a spouse.
And it's got to be real, too. Some people, and you know it all, most of your families know that. There's somebody in the family that's the take charge person. Always been that.
Yeah.
You've grown up with that. But that take charge person, as I see it, may take charge, but that person still needs support from the siblings, from wherever they are. Can you talk about that and these things that you've seen, heard, etc.?
Like I said, I can speak on that from talking to my friends who have siblings, because I'm an only child. It's always, you got to look at one other dynamic of that. What was the relationship of the family prior to that person being diagnosed with some type of dementia? Like you said, there's always the person that you can depend on. There's always that sibling that they ain't not going to show up when they're supposed to be in everyday activities throughout your life that you've experienced.
But still, that caregiver needs care, too.
Yeah.
Can you address maybe the kind of care I'm sure that you get from your spouse and your wife on things like that, and what you would suggest to folks who are dealing with that? How do you get your care?
Well, my wife has been fantastic throughout this whole situation. When one of my loved ones fell, I stayed over there for almost 2 weeks. You know, so she was understanding, and we didn't have any issue. She understood that. So that's important to have somebody to support you in knowing the difficulty of what that person is going through. That's very, very crucial. And like we said, I gave those numbers out early. Use those resources. Understand that you cannot do this by yourself. It's impossible. You must reach out. And also, one more important thing, as the caregiver, you're caring for that person, but don't forget to care for yourself. Because you ain't no good to anybody else unless you're in good shape.
Pull that oxygen mask down on you? You talking about that?
That's what they say on the plane. Before you help the other person, secure yourself. And that's very, very difficult to do when you realize all your energy and all your emotions and all those feelings are going on at the same time. You have to make sure that you go and do things that you enjoy to do and have stress relief and work with your siblings or other resources that you can get, you know, going to have people to come out and stay with them during the day, and you probably have to, you know, come around after work and check on them in the evening. But please, please, please don't try to handle this yourself. You will lose your mind as well.
I have a quote that I use quite frequently in a number of different circumstances, but maybe very important in this circumstance. It's from the poet E. E. Cummings, and the poem is this, or this part is this: to him the beautiful answer, who asked the more beautiful question. And you posed a question that you had answered, and I want to pose it to you again so you can tell our audience about how would I want to be taken care of. You had to ask that yourself.
Yes. And so, like I said, after all these things we talked about, you're still going to be going, you have good days and bad days. So what I try to do is imagine that my loved one is me, and how would I want to treat myself? Because some days they get on your nerves. And remember this, they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time.
Talk, brother. Say that again. Repeat that, because I think our folks got to remember that what he's saying is so deep.
Your loved one who has whatever type of dementia they have, they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. So they don't need you to compound that. Now, sometimes you have to have real conversations with them. But understand that, as the kids say, don't be in your feelings. Remove yourself and imagine that was you and you had to take care of yourself. And since I've done that and came to that conclusion, I said, oh, I feel better. Like if I go to the store for one of them and then I get back and they say, oh, you know, I need something else. Instead of saying, oh, I got to go back to the store. And I was like, what if that was you and you really wanted to drink or eat whatever that was? You would want that person to cheerfully.
Right.
And see, that's the part. I'd be like, oh, I got all this. No. You're doing something that's a blessing, and do it cheerfully. And it takes time. It don't happen the first week when you thrust into this position. It takes a while. I've been dealing with this. One of the loved ones since Thanksgiving, the other one since February the 1st. So it takes time. I have my days, but like I said, once I've realized, imagine if this was you, and you didn't have your short-term memory.
And basically, now we're going to go into our closing minute, and we're going to use what you say, head to toe, and then some more. I want your response. We've been to head. We're going to come down to toe. Give some more responses. Give your response to that.
From head to toe. That's just looking at our body holistically, from head to toe. You know, we need to take care of ourselves. Because this is a precursor of me. Because I'm 61. So at some point...
I thought you were much younger than that, but go ahead.
Well, you know, I look a little younger. You know, I got no hair, but, you know, other than that. But yeah, from head to toe, and then some more. We're going to be bringing in
I got to get
experts.
this quick commercial in.
Okay.
Remember, seeing black butterflies, seeing silver on Tuesdays now at 5:30, starting April 2nd. Not April Fool's Day. April 2nd, we'll be back with you. It's a great time, a perfect slot. I think Imani and I think Rocio.
All right, see y'all next season. Starts next week.
Starts next
Tuesday.
week. Springtime for us. We'll have great guests like you. And keep those questions coming in. We will respond to those questions that you've been sending to blackbutterfly1940@gmail.com. Send your questions for Dr. Mike. And he will be researching the questions that you have, going to experts like himself, but in different fields. So thank you for being with us, folks at Atlas, folks at Crocs, and our audiences all over the city of Chicago. Thank you for being with us tonight at CAN TV, Channel 21, next week, next Tuesday.
Have a good evening and be safe.
Have a good evening and be safe. Look around the
See you next week.
I'll see you next week. Thank you, folks, for being with us.
Thank you.